All right, so it was at about this point where I got triggered into this buy position. Now, in hindsight, of course, I could have targeted the 50% of this demand zone, but the truth is I was completely comfortable with the parameters I had set, given the entry point that I had. My stop loss was 8 pips, and I was perfectly happy with that stop loss size. So got triggered into the trade, very minimal drawdown as it made its way to the 50%. I really want to highlight how accurately it actually tapped into that 50% zone and then took off. You can see the impulsive bullish momentum that came into the market as soon as that 50% zone was triggered. So that's pretty cool. But again, I was happy with the entry that I took. So at this point, we're seeing a lot of bullish momentum coming into the market, but it's not quite enough to really disrupt any market structure just yet. However, at the time, it was nice to see that there was such a strong reaction. So my overall take profit was set at that supply zone just above the current range. So I felt that that was a valid supply zone to target because I felt that it would hold if price were to reach there, and then we could continue the higher time frame bearish momentum. So this was pretty modest risk reward ratio. It was like 4.6 something, I believe. But yeah, it was a Friday afternoon. I just wanted to end the week on a win. I wasn't trying to aim too high. This is also the 5-minute time frame, so this is a pretty small move overall. Yeah, I was happy with the parameters. So at this point in time, price is just kind of struggling to make new highs, and then right about there it does. A good push to the upside. The indicator I'm using printed that minor supply zone there, but I'm obviously not concerned with that because it wasn't responsible for creating a new swing low or anything like that. So it's a very minor zone. I really wasn't paying attention to that. So at this point, price is starting to trade back down after making that large bullish candle. Yeah, so at this point, I'm just like, it seemed good so far. I was happy with everything. I had no stress in this trade, to be honest, just because of how clean this buy model was. And I'm going to go over the entry criteria in just a moment. But basically, with all the confluence that was involved in this trade, I had literally no stress with this. I had full confidence in it. I should have risked more, that's for sure. But, like I said, Friday morning, I just wanted to end the week on a win. I wasn't trying to aim too high with this one. So right here, price is starting to turn pretty bearish. Again, it wasn't concerning me as long as that recent low that was made was not violated. Then I had really no concern. But this is an interesting time to bring up, moving your stop loss to break even, right? Because if I were to have done so, I would have definitely been taken out at this point right here. And I would have, ended the day with no loss and no gain. Knowing that this trade worked out in my favor, it certainly would have been hard to accept a break even. That's always a crappy feeling. So I try not to move my stop loss to break even too soon. I only move it to break even after I've taken partial profits at a structural point in price. And sometimes I trail my stop loss as well. So as you can see, we're creating kind of like relative equal lows there. But I'm happy because price didn't really violate that recent low where my entry was first made. So overall, I'm still pretty confident in this trade, and we're seeing more bullish momentum come into the market. So clearly this level here, this demand zone that I targeted for an entry, is quite valid and holds a lot of weight. So I was very happy with how the trade was going so far. Now I'd like to go over the entry criteria for this trade. There was so much confluence in this trade that it felt really great to enter. I had no second guessing myself. Everything was very clear to me. So it was predicated on a lot of factors. Number one, you'll see at the very far left of the chart, there is a very faint gray horizontal line. That represented actually liquidity being taken on a higher time frame. At this point in time, I don't actually recall which time frame that was, but it was either the 15-minute or the 1-hour time frame. Regardless, liquidity was taken from a recent major low, and I call it liquidity instead of a break of structure because price didn't surpass that major low by too much. So, and then after that, we see the following. We see a change of character in price, and then we see liquidity being built up as well. But the change of character is the main thing that my eye was drawn to, because instead of breaking structure in a bearish momentum and continuing bearish, we actually created a bullish change of character. So that shows me that liquidity was just being purged from that recent higher time frame major low. And now we could certainly see a short-term bullish little mini uptrend that I could potentially take advantage of, right? So that change of character that you can see on my chart labeled CH with the arrow, when that minor high was broken, that was the main entry criteria, paired with the fact that liquidity was just purged from a higher time frame. So those two things are very important to me. Now, after that change of character, price made its way up to a more recent minor supply zone that I don't have highlighted on this chart, and then kind of traded sideways for quite some time, which created some sell side liquidity that I have marked out on my chart in the form of those dollar signs with the horizontal line. That just represents liquidity to me. Anytime there's relative equal lows or equal highs, that represents liquidity in the market because there is buy stops and sell stops resting below or above those levels. So those three confluences right there, the liquidity being purged, the change of character, and the new liquidity being formed, those were major indications to me that I was going to be on the right side of the market in terms of my long bias. And now the next thing I look for in particular is imbalance. So the zone that I'm targeting, this demand zone that I ended up trading from, was there imbalance, significant impulsive movement created after that demand zone was printed? And you can see that very clearly after that little bearish indecisional candle was printed that represents my demand zone. The next candle was extremely bullish and created a gap in price. So that gap is called imbalance. I have done videos in the past on imbalance, so I'm not going to go too deep into that, but that is maybe the number one criteria actually that I look for to validate a supply or demand zone. So because we have those four confluences in this trade, it really represented a very high probability buy model for me. So I had no problem entering this trade. I felt very confident. At this point, price is reacting to that minor supply zone. However, in my mind, there was no way that that supply zone was going to hold long term. And the simple reason behind that is that it didn't actually cause anything to happen in price. You can see that that supply zone was the last point of supply before that bearish impulsive movement, but that bearish impulsive movement did nothing except for clear liquidity and then inevitably react to the demand zone that I was targeting for my entry. So it didn't actually disrupt structure. There was no shift in market structure. There was no shift in sentiment. So I knew that it was a very weak supply zone. And I was actually talking with a buddy of mine who was taking the exact same trade at the same time as me. And we were both talking to each other saying, yeah, this isn't going to hold. Like, it's going to push to the upside. And inevitably it did. It should be any minute now, really. But yeah, at this point, like most people would be scared seeing this. They might take partial profits or move their stop loss to break even. And that's why it's important to actually understand the why behind the trade. You have to know why you're getting in the trade. There has to be a story built behind your bias, right? So in this case, price had no reason, in my mind at least, to create a long-term reaction from this supply zone. This isn't a supply zone that I would personally trade from. It would be a very low probability area to take a sell trade from. So why would I let it affect my long bias, right? So I remained confident in my decision to enter a long trade at this time. And at this point in time, my stop loss hadn't been touched. It was left at the original placement. I hadn't taken partial profits or anything like that. And I was just waiting for further price action to develop. So price is gaining bullish momentum once more, enough to break this minor supply zone once and for all. Now, if you look a little bit to the left with all the price action there, there's really no clear supply zone or imbalance that price should react from. So in my opinion, as soon as this indicator that I'm using clears that minor supply zone from my chart, showing that it's violated, there's nothing else that should really stand in the way of this trade reaching its full potential at the take profit level. There's no imbalance, there's no supply zone where price should react to. So it makes sense to me that price would just, go to the upside and hit the full take profit. So at this point, again, feeling very confident in the trade, hadn't moved the stop loss at all. I hadn't taken partial profits. Overall, it's a very modest trade to begin with, so I didn't feel the need to take partial profits. Keep in mind, we're on the 5-minute time frame on Euro USD as well, so price really doesn't have to move too much in order to hit that take profit. Now, if you look to the right, there's also a sell position. I had that set as a limit order. So This supply zone to me was very valid, and the overall higher time frame was bearish, so I was looking to sell from there. However, as soon as price hit the full take profit on this buy position and entered the sell position, I very quickly closed the trade, and you'll see here the proof of that. It was only like a $200 win on the sell position. Combined with the other profits, that's very nice. But it didn't react in a way that I liked and felt comfortable with, so I closed it early. So that about wraps it up for this trade, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a comment down below. Don't forget to like the video and also subscribe to this YouTube channel. I plan on posting a lot more content. So thanks again for watching, and I will talk to you all soon.